On today's show, just when you thought you heard it all,
North Korea the bloody nose they deserve.
The internet's hackers, scammers, and thieves have a new tactic to steal from you. And my 5 things you need to know. I'll tell you about the type of scam that targets you called voice cloning. And Boeing unveiled its fly-by-wire design of a helicopter that the company intends to sell in the United States. It's all part of the Army's plan for their future attack reconnaissance aircraft. It has a distinctly futuristic look like James Cameron's movie Avatar. Plus, we're cooking with 81-year-old TikTok celebrity Old Man Steve. If you're looking for a recipe for laughter, he has all the ingredients. You're gonna love him. And finally, cybercrime cost Americans $3.5 billion last year. You could be taken just by taking a photo of your new house key. My DIY security for things you should never do online. All this and more digital know-how here on Komando. Every day, I look at over 35 different websites to keep up with the latest tech news. And every show, I share only the top 5 stories you need to know, starting with the coronavirus. Governments in affected countries are working to keep it contained, including a heavy reliance on tech like artificial intelligence. Companies, airports, and public venues are thinking about installing special video monitoring systems that can detect a person's temperature. These so-called smart coronavirus CCTV systems can scan 2 people at a time. If the system flags a potential fever, staff will, quote, divert and isolate that person who would be tested for the virus. They retail from about $4,000 to $6,500 per camera. Now, one problem is that people diagnosed with the coronavirus don't necessarily display any symptoms at first, including a fever. That could make these whiz-bang cameras about as useful as preventing the spread of the coronavirus as a $10 face mask. Meanwhile, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak is definitely not helping the situation. A few days ago, he tweeted about his wife's bad cough while casually mentioning that they returned from China early January. He could have stopped there, but no. Wozniak said in the tweet that he and his wife may have both been patient 0 in the U.S. He later added that the CDC gave them the runaround and wouldn't test them for the virus. His wife has since said that she had a sinus infection. Steve Wozniak always seemed ticked off that he was number 2 at Apple, behind Steve Jobs. I guess this was his way of being number 1. All right, next up, Google and Microsoft are giving you free tools to WFH. To help prevent the spread of the virus, companies are looking for ways for people to work from home. Working remotely is best done when a team is working in the cloud. Take Google's G Suite. It's a business subscription version of Google Drive that includes Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Those accounts are secure, and admins can set up 2FA to protect sensitive data. And just as Google decided to cancel their annual developers conference, the company also announced that G Suite and G Suite Education customers can now have free access to Google's Hangout Meet video conferencing until the beginning of July. Google's big competitor in this space is Microsoft's Office 365, which is made up of programs like Word and Excel. Microsoft Teams, that's the new name for business Skype subscriptions, is also part of the Office suite, and it's going to be free too. Microsoft is offering a free 6-month trial of Teams that includes access to larger group calls and the ability to record meetings. For more details on how to sign up for the free tools offered by Google and Microsoft, hit our website at komando.com. And while you're there, be sure to also check out the alert about a clever computer virus that's spreading, promising news about the coronavirus. Number 3, the dark web is no place for you. The dark part is the name isn't just about privacy. It's where cyber crooks deal in your stolen data, pirated goods, and run criminal enterprises like illegal drug markets. And not surprisingly, it's where also you'll find hitmen for hire. A dark website called Azerbaijani Eagles says it's going to murder someone for you for $5,000. At Sicilian Hitmen International Network, a murder is $12,000. Slayer's Hitman gives you options. A beating is $2,000, death by torture, $50,000. Researchers at Michigan State University studied 24 of these dark web hitmen sites. The New York Times published the findings that they're just elaborate ways for thieves to make money from obviously very disturbed folks who typically want their significant other or boss offed. The murder-for-hire websites are scams. No one ever gets killed, but people are going to jail. When anyone sends money to hire a murderer, law enforcement knows, and the person they wanted dead carries on his or her life as if nothing ever happened. Number 4, your ears aren't good enough to hear this coming. You already know about scammers who pretend to be someone else in email or through text and calls using spoof numbers. Now they're taking it up a notch in a new trend using deep fake voices. Take a listen.
This morning, American forces gave North Korea the bloody nose they deserve.
Yeah, that's a deep fake voice. A company called Pindrop that focuses on voice fraud says AI-enabled voice cloning tech is here, and it's the next big threat. Now, just think about the kind of scams that could pop up thanks to deep fake voices, like where you work. Those already been the business email compromise, where a crook pretends to be a high-level manager and needs an urgent wire transfer for some company project. Maybe you're already on the lookout for those, but what if the CEO calls you directly? Would you be the slightest suspicious if they sounded exactly like the boss? Probably not. If you think the spread of misinformation is bad now, what if scammers decided to create deepfake audio recordings of people in the public eye? It literally only takes 5 minutes of someone's audio to create a realistic clone. Be careful of any urgent money requests, especially from random relatives or even certain national radio and global TV hosts. Even if you recognize my voice, I am not going to pay you back someday. Finally, number 5, alcohol, cigarettes, and Facebook, all three are addictive. Researchers with the American Economic Association wanted to know how heavy Facebook users would react if they suddenly stopped using it. For many, just the thought of being without Facebook caused a psychological overload, and they refused to participate. But of the 2,700 who did unplug from Facebook for 4 weeks, here's what happened. The average unplugger's political views remained unchanged, but unpluggers got an hour of their life back each day with 60 minutes of new, productive time. Unpluggers report improvements in overall happiness, life satisfaction, together with less depression, less anxiety. I quit Facebook a long time ago, and I agree. Not surprisingly, researchers had to pay people up to $100 to temporarily quit Facebook, but that's not the only way to really take a break. The Hollywood Reporter did a piece on wellness resorts where Hollywood types go to get a full digital detox. No devices, no cell service, no Wi-Fi. One of these resorts, the Ranch Malibu, offers a 7-day experience that includes midday naps and silent meditation hikes as a way to deprogram the brain. But this kind of detox doesn't come cheap. This place will set you back about $8,000 for a 1-week stay. So you'll be without your electronics and as an added bonus, all your money too. Alrighty, the Kim Komando radio show is heard from coast to coast on over 400 top stations in the United States and around the world on American Forces Network Radio. That's 177 different countries, and every ship at sea gets the Kim Komando Show. And because it's a talk radio show, well, there's that talk part, and that's the callers. And week after week, we have Chris Weiland here, and he's manning our call screening desk, taking all the calls, saying, you know, you are the ultimate decision maker. You decide who gets through.
That's right.
What is the big criteria for that?
They can't be my mom. She keeps calling.
And you're like, no, Mom,
no,
stop,
Mom.
stop. So what's going on?
Well, I don't know if you heard this, but you probably did. An Amazon worker just tested positive for coronavirus. Did you hear that?
That's frightening.
What's even crazier is that this worker actually got the coronavirus quicker than everybody else. What, corona takes about 15 days to show?
Yeah, that's the frightening part.
Right, but for this Amazon worker, 1-day delivery. See?
I was doing that, but
It took a while to get there.
All right, no, it worked. All right, it's a little geeky, but Google's marking a major milestone in something called quantum computing. Next, I'm going to speak to a staff research scientist about how this is going to open up all these new possibilities for our lives here on Komando. And of course, no show's complete without you. And our phone lines are open here on the T-Mobile Unlimited listener line. The number's 1-888-825-5254. You know, you can Google anything, but you cannot Google my trusted advice. Our next guest and topic, it's a little geeky, but you're smart. I know you can handle it. We're going to be talking about something called quantum computing. You've probably heard the term before, and now you're going to know what it really means. Quantum computing is what lets us have major advancements in medicine, breakthroughs in science, and financial analysis. These are the most powerful computers on Earth. Last year, Google announced its quantum processor made a calculation in 200 seconds. That would take the world's fastest traditional supercomputer 10,000 years to make. Joining us now is Dr. Eric Lucero, staff research scientist on the quantum AI team at Google. So first, let's break it down, Doctor. How would you define quantum computing to, say, your mother or your aunt or your grandmother? How would you define that?
Sure, sure. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, a quantum computer is a computer that speaks the language of nature, and that's quantum mechanics. What we go out to look at how to build a system like this, we look at what are the constituents in matter that assemble, say, quantum behaviors in nature, and we want to bring those things together so that we can actually control them in a way to make a computer that will do computation for us.
How does it do all these calculations at 10,000 a second? I mean, what happens behind the scenes?
That's a great question. So a lot of it is that you're using something called superposition. And superposition is this really nice feature in quantum mechanics that allows us to actually amplify or de-amplify the actual correct answer. So when we set up an experiment, we actually allow the system to evolve, and it's almost like a wave interference. You drop a rock in a lake and you see some waves. The things that are amplifying are going to be the correct signal, and those that are actually de-amplifying will be those that are not the correct signal.
Okay, so when you're talking about a quantum computer, is it a massive computer?
Yeah, so it's a physical object. It's about the size of it's a big cylinder. So if you had maybe two people around it, you could hug it. And it's a full system, but the chip itself could sit in the palm of your hand. So the quantum processor that we've built, so-called Sycamore processor, sits in the palm of your hand. But there's a number of things that have to actually connect to that system, wires, and then they come all up to the very top of the cryostat, which is the refrigerator that we use. These processors have to be kept very cold. So we want to basically keep a very Zen-like state for this space. So it's very dark and very cold. In fact, it's some of the coldest places in the universe. So ambient temperature here that we're sitting at, enjoying it in my studio and your studio, is 300 Kelvin. It's about room temperature. The temperature at which, say, nitrogen becomes a liquid is 77 Kelvin. The temperature at which water freezes is 273. So these are very good, very cold. If we were hanging out between galaxies in space, it's about 4 Kelvin. And we actually go orders of magnitude colder. So we go down to 10 millikelvin. And that's actually where our processor sits, at 10 millikelvin in a very dark place inside of this refrigerator.
Okay, so why does it have to be so cold?
That's a great question. We use a superconductor. Now, that is actually just aluminum. Aluminum, turns out, if you cool it down past what's called its critical temperature, it becomes a superconducting metal. And that means that electrons no longer have any resistance, so there's no loss. And then we want to be so cold that we're actually reducing the thermal noise. So think of like when you're tuning your radio and you actually dial in to the exact radio station, but as you're moving through that dial, there's this noise. And so what you do is we just turn down that noise so that you hear the quantum signal come out.
That's a great analogy. That's fabulous, because I don't know, I mean, I have a degree in computer science. I don't know if I ever understood that just until right now when you use the analogy of tuning into a radio, because it just, you can suddenly see it and make perfect sense. And so what are some practical uses of quantum computing?
That's a really great question. With Sycamore, we actually have the first practical application, which is so-called certified random number generator. I'd like to say that it solves the practical problem of how do you pick seats at a wedding? Right? So,
you know what? Let me tell you right now, there are never good seats at a wedding. Somebody is always going to be pissed off that they did not get to sit where they wanted to sit. Now you're telling me quantum computing is going to solve all that?
What I love about this is that you can, well, if you actually do a random selection, truly random, and you can certify that it's random, then you can tell your relatives and your friends, and you can blame it on your computer. Right?
Exactly, perfect.
I think more specifically, you'd actually touched it at the top of the show where you mentioned, some of the really nice breakthroughs that we expect in science, which is one that, as a scientist myself, I'm very excited about. I believe that with quantum computers, we may actually be able to help combat climate change.
Wow.
I think that there's obvious things associated with energy, creating better batteries, better pharmaceuticals, so drug research, the ability to actually solve these problems that would otherwise take us infathomable amount of years to do, or take a lot of money to make these advancements in, say, drug research that we could do that in a simulation, where that simulation actually shows us the answer on a quantum computer.
But I still won't be able to like type faster, right?
That's right.
That's it. Well, Doctor, thanks again for coming on the Kim Komando Show. And I don't know about you, but if the next Google Pixel is a quantum phone, I think I'm going to be switching to that one. Okay, now it's time for your weekly tech trivia question. Oh, computers, they're common now. But have you ever given much thought to their humble beginnings? Like, here's a fun fact. The very first electronic computer took up more than 1,800 square feet and weighed 27 tons. So, which of the following is not true about computers? Is it A, was invented in 1822, B, was Time's Man of the Year, C, Microsoft released the first laptop, or was it D, the first mouse was made of wood? All right, so smarty pants, go for the goal because you're picking the false statement. So tell us the answer that would make it true and stick around. I'll have the answer to both at the end of the hour. All right, time now for a fun feature on the show that we're calling Tech Blink, a quick look at tech that delivers what you'd never expect because tech companies invest millions of dollars, sometimes billions, to bring us new and exciting products and services to market. We'll present you with 4 new products. It's up to you to decide whether or not this new tech will make it or break it. And this is important. You have to tell us how much you'd be willing to pay for it because in the tech world, products come and go in a blink of the eye. And let's get started. Joining us once again is Chris Weiland, our official call screener.
That's right. Wow, it's a good title. I like that.
And you have 2 products. I have 2 products.
Yes.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Do you have any loved ones who don't live close?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. And so imagine if you could just virtually reach out and touch them. Okay. That's the whole idea behind this long distance touch light. It's actually pretty cool. So you have a light, and when you touch it, the light on the other side, whether it's across the country, the world, whatever, it lights up. So it's like your way of telling that person, hey, I love you, or I'm thinking about you. And you touch yours and it can emit the same glow, just like I mentioned. You can also create a group. You can assign different colors. They say that these LEDs are not bulbs. They last up to 50,000 hours. Huh. So you can buy 1 lamp or 2, a set of 2.
Okay.
How much do you think they are?
Wow. Okay. Well, first off, I do think that this is a make-it product. I'm pretty sure because there's a lot of people that are long distance. So I guess I would guess that if it's a 1, should I guess how much a 1 lamp?
Yeah, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Okay. So the 1 lamp is going to cost $37. That's probably too low. Can I change it real quick?
No, because you saw my face.
No, I didn't. I just
okay, all right, okay, go ahead.
Looked inside myself. I'm gonna go with $132
for 1 or 2.
For 1.
All right. Well, I also agree it's going to make it. It was $99 for 1 lamp. All right,
that's
you're
not
up.
Fair. Okay, a company by the name of Low-Free is hoping that some people still like to type just like the good old days. Introducing the Low-Free 4 Seasons keyboard. It's a wireless mechanical keyboard inspired by the old vintage typewriters. It has the round keycaps, mechanical switches, old typewriter colors, and of course, it's all wireless.
I personally would like one of these.
Oh, you would?
I mean, I think it'd be like a novel effect. I mean,
I can see that.
Keyboard, how about $29.99?
It is $149.
Okay, it's never going to make it.
Okay, now it's not going to make it.
Never going to make it. Never.
Well,
okay, this one, I think I might buy this for Barry. You could pick up this phone. Mm-hmm. It's called the banana phone. And you could say, hey, send up another bunch, room service, okay? It's a new handset. It connects through Bluetooth, and it keeps the phone radiation away from your coconut, it says. Just pair it up with the device to receive phone calls. Use your favorite voice assistant to make them. Talk up to 10 hours with a USB rechargeable battery. And you know that you're keeping the jungle green because it has a 100% recycled plastic cover.
That is a real thing.
Yes, not just for monkeying around either. So how much do you think this is? And I think I think this one's going to make it.
You really do?
Yeah, I
think
do.
It'll be making?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I will tell you this. If it's in an affordable price range, I will probably get tons of them for Christmas. Because I'm a comedian, everybody's always getting me funny stuff. Let's put this at $98 for a banana.
$40.
$40. Oh, I should have went lower.
All right, real quick. We're short on time, but you have one more.
Okay, one last thing. So smartwatches are pretty comfortable, but there's a company that believes they can do better without a bulky watch, and it's called a smart ring. So it's a smart ring. It can fit, it's supposed to fit on your ring finger. It just weighs 4 grams, and the circular smart ring sits right on the ring finger with a foam factor that makes it look like a fashionable ring rather than a clunky wearable. In fact, it'll help you to go to bed, and it will kind of know when you should be waking up, and then it will create an alarm for that.
So instead of a smart watch, you got a ring.
Yes.
All right.
For the most part.
$99.99.
Ooh, close, except no, way off. It's $219.
Okay, that's too much money. All right, so in case you want to check out any of these products, just head over to komando.com, and under the link that says Kim Show, we have all the links that you might want to check out for our Tech Blink products of the week. Boeing has taken the wraps off its future reconnaissance aircraft. This helicopter has a ton of digital bells and whistles, and it's all part of your Tomorrow's Tech Today, next on Komando. Tech moves at lightning speed, and I love to go past the headlines to tell you where the future's headed. And this week, let's start with Boeing and its vision for military aircraft of the future. The U.S. Army is looking to replace a Cold War-era helicopter, and Boeing is pitching its design for a new helicopter currently dubbed FARA, which stands for Future Attack Reconnaissance Aircraft. Boeing isn't giving much away about the FARA, but what we do know is that it's going to be a 2-seat combat helicopter that's powered by a single engine. It has the familiar helicopter look with a massive rotor on top, but will also have a push propeller to make it more maneuverable and faster. It also packs an onboard diagnostic system that makes adjustments in real time. And what vehicle of the future would be without an onboard touchscreen? The other 4 companies offering up their own designs are AVX Aircraft, Bell Textron, Karam Aircraft, and Skorsky. The Army is expected to pick 2 designs to move forward, but even if Boeing is eventually selected, the FARAs wouldn't be put into service for at least another 8 years. By then, they might be just sharing the skies with actual flying cars. But for now, cars are still grounded, which brings me to one of the latest electric vehicle concepts, this one from Renault. Check out the Morphs, which definitely checks all the boxes for a crossover of the future. Definitely a sleek design, and it's smart too. With an AI system that only responds to authorized users, it can help plan your travel itinerary. Inside, you've got all kinds of screens, including one built into the steering wheel. But AI and screen-filled cabins are getting pretty common in the electric concepts. This future car is different. It can charge wirelessly, and it has 2 different driving modes, one for city and one for travel. In city mode, the Morphs gets about 250 miles on a single charge. When you want to transition to travel mode, you have to take it to a special station. That's where the car is lengthened by more than a foot, and an extra battery pack is added. Then you go from 250-mile range to 435, and you end up with a little extra legroom too. Pretty slick, but if it ever makes it into production, they might want to reconsider the interior color choice. Nothing says the future like mustard yellow. It's Dijon View. All right, move over, kids. It's the doctor's turn to play the video game. It's Future Tech Training. A few years ago, an orthopedic surgeon named Justin Barrett decided to address the unpredictability in the medical world, specifically the unknowns that doctors and surgeons constantly face. He started a company called Oso VR. Instead of bulky, expensive, and often outdated simulators, doctors can use virtual reality to properly assess certain situations. To say it's been a success is just putting it mildly. A recent study found it to be 230% more efficient than traditional training methods. Now the Oso VR is being used to train about 1,000 doctors a month worldwide. A company called Shell Games has a mobile game/training simulator called Night Shift that puts players in the shoes of a trauma doctor who's also dealing with distracting family issues. Another game studio called Level X makes more realistic mobile game simulators for doctors, now used by 500,000 medical professionals around the world. I'm sure there are still plenty of doctors out there who grew up playing video games. I bet they didn't expect to keep playing them to be better doctors. Talk about a game changer. Okay, aside from playing video games when you were younger, maybe some of you had posters of your favorite athletes hanging on your wall. One day in the future, what if your kid's favorite athlete isn't a real person? If you looked away from the show, come on back, because this is a 6-foot, 10-inch humanoid robot called Q4 that was created by Toyota. Maybe you've heard of its predecessor, the Q3. Last year, it set a Guinness World Record for basketball by shooting more than 2,000 consecutive free throws. But it couldn't do much else. Q4 is the upgraded version. This time, the robot isn't stationary. It can move around the court on wheels and pick up basketballs before shooting three-pointers. It can do this by using its built-in sensors, algorithms, and radar that calculates the correct angle and how much force is necessary to make each shot. Q4 shot threes before a recent basketball all-star game in Japan, but don't expect to see it show up in the next NBA draft. Basket bots will just have to wait. I wonder after it plays, does it want Dunkin' Donuts? All right, TikTok is an app that the kids use. So why is one of its biggest stars an 81-year-old man who cooks? Join me as we go straight to the menu maker himself next on Komando. TikTok is a video sharing app used mostly by people under 20 years old, but one man in his 80s is having the time of his life doing what he does best, making people smile. Stephen Austin is known to millions of tweens and teens as Old Man Steve. He teaches his followers how to cook, and despite the generational gap, let me tell you, the kids love him. Hey, Steve, it's so good to have you on the show. Did you ever expect that you would be a TikTok star in your life?
No, I really didn't, and especially at 81 years old. Hey, I look pretty silly with my hat like that, don't I?
But when you're doing the TikTok videos, you're also wearing a hat each time, aren't you?
Yeah, that's kind of become my trademark. I'm not sure how that all started, but I had a few hats, and now I've got over 50.
Wow.
And different colors.
And so now when it comes time to do a TikTok video, you are quite the chef.
I'm not sure how that got started, but most people on TikTok are young people, so they do a lot of physical stuff, and I really can't do that. So I started by just making a sandwich, and I TikToked it, and everybody loved it. So then it started cooking with Steve. And all I do is make like a bowl of cereal or a sandwich, and they call that cooking. But the kids are loving it, and they're eating it up.
So what was the most popular video that you've ever done? I think it didn't have something to do with you were making homemade biscuits?
Well, yeah, except they weren't homemade. They were frozen. I just took them out of the freezer and put them in the oven and cooked them. And then I put some butter and some preserves on them, and that was it. And for some reason, that got over 18 million hits on it. I'm not sure why that was so popular, but it was.
Well, Steve, not everybody can just pick up a video camera and suddenly attract 18 million kids to start liking their videos. And I love the comments where people say, I'd love to have a grandpa like you. And it seems like you're becoming like also the virtual grandfather for a lot of these folks.
Right. A lot of them say I remind them of their grandfather, or they want me to be their grandfather. And I started calling me their internet grandfather. So maybe I have a new handle. I don't know.
So do you make videos for YouTube or any place else?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I'm getting some crossover from my TikTok fans to my YouTube channel, which is on YouTube. Of course, you can make longer videos, so I can say more and do more.
That's really cool. But you seem to have, let me tell you, you seem to have like a knack for this, Stephen. You do. I mean, have you always been an entertainer?
No. My grandfather was an entertainer. Maybe I got that from him. I don't know. He was, back in the olden days, he was in vaudeville, and maybe some of that rubbed off on me, but I've never done any performing before.
Well, I definitely see the performance factor in your DNA, that's for sure. So, okay, now the big question, the money question. Have you turned this into like millions of dollars yet?
Oh, gosh, no. I wish. I've had a few offers, and we're looking into that, but right now, nothing. There's no money coming in. I'm just doing it for the fun.
And, which is great because you have, like I mentioned, you have these millions of kids that are now calling you their grandfather, and now you have millions and millions of grandchildren. How has this affected your life personally, if not financially, personally?
Well, it makes me feel good to know that these young people like me, and they're always saying, "I love you, old man Steve." Then I don't feel so alone because the kids on TikTok tell me they love me, and that makes me feel good. It warms my heart. And living alone, I gives me something to wake up to every morning. Because of my age, I live alone. I live in a senior community apartment complex, and I haven't lived here very long, so I don't know very many people. But all of a sudden, I'm real popular with the ladies. So maybe I'll get a few free meals out of this.
Well,
Uh,
you don't need a free meal. You could cook for them. I have seen you. You made Okay, let me tell you, Steve, you made me bean and bacon soup because you heard that I like soup.
Well, hello there. This is old man Steve, and I'm cooking with Steve, and I'm gonna make some soup because this is for Kim Komando Show. I'm gonna be on her show this weekend, and I know she likes soup. And we're gonna make some bean and bacon soup, which is really good. I like it. It's one of my favorites. Let me get this can open. Now, bean and bacon soup it's heart healthy and it's excellent source of fiber. That's one of the reasons why I like it. But let me get it warmed up here and I'll show you what it looks like, okay? Okay, it's hot and ready to pour in here. And you put you some crackers, get you some crackers, and you got you some nice soup for a nice cold day. Enjoy.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, thanks again for coming on the show. And for those of you out there who want to check out his videos, make sure you look him up on TikTok under @OldManSteve. Gosh, isn't he wonderful? All right, now back to the trivia question I asked earlier. Which of the following is not true about computers? Is it A, was invented in 1822, B, was Time's Man of the Year, C, Microsoft released the first laptop, or D, the first mouse was made of wood? The answer is C, Microsoft was not the company behind the first laptop. The first true mobile computer was created in 1981 by a man named Adam Osborne. It was called the Osborne 1. It cost $1,800 and weighed about 24 pounds. Doesn't seem so mobile, does it? The others on the list are true. An English mathematician named Charles Babbage came up with the idea for a steam-driven machine that could compute numbers in 1822, and in 1982, Time Magazine's Man of the Year was indeed a personal computer, and yes, the very first mouse created in 1964 had a wooden shell. See, it all clicks. You can probably tell that we put a lot of work into each show, bringing you just the top news, best tech, and useful tips for living the ultimate digital life. And I'd love to hear from you about how we're doing. Send me your thoughts to btv@komando.com, and thanks so much in advance. You know, when it comes to buying tech, and we're going to talk about now in our digital life hack tip, you can spend a little or you can spend a lot. You can buy a $150 Chromebook, or you can shell out $2,500 for a MacBook Pro. You can get a $25 TP-Link router, or you can buy a $330 Netgear Nighthawk router. Okay, how about one more? Is it better to buy a $60 Cohen noise-canceling headphones or $400 ones from Bose? Okay, sometimes you can get by with the cheap stuff. HDMI cables are a good example. I recently purchased an Amazon Basics 10-foot HDMI cable for $10. And then I started looking around, and I didn't think the Audio Quest Diamond 6.5-foot cable for $1,700 just for an HDMI cable seemed kind of worth it. So I know you want to save money, but here are some places where it's better to spend the money, starting with cameras. What you don't want to do is start buying these cheap security cameras because they may not have motion detection, alerts, apps, encrypted data storage. Might not include basic security like 2FA. That means a hacker can remotely tap into your camera, shut it down, or even steal your saved footage. So there's a discount product called iBaby Monitor. Bargain bin price, unsecured server, If a hacker gets into the iBaby server, they can gain access to other devices. So you want to make sure that you get good security cameras. Simply Safe, of course, is our recommended brand. And then, of course, there are others. Number 2 is look at your smartphones. I know you don't want to spend $1,200 on an iPhone, but does a $17 Android smartphone sound like a great deal? The MYA2 from my phone could be the perfect addition to your gear if it wasn't for all the security problems. As an outdated version of Android that can't be updated or patched. 2 of the apps, Facebook Lite and Pinoy, request reams of user data without a way to opt out or even just to delete the software. Number 3 is gas station tech. You're driving around, you're like, oh, I need a charging cable. So you go into your local convenience store, you're Flying J or Circle K, and you're like, okay, I can get a cable here. Okay, the problem is that these cables are known to fail or break after a short time. Some of the unofficial lightning cables have even caught fire or broken off inside the charging ports. You know, if you want a cheaper alternative, you can hunt around on Amazon. Just make sure that it's certified. All right, it's time now for what I like to call interesting items that cross my desk that you need to know about. And these are the things that, well, you might have missed, or maybe that the mainstream media just really didn't cover. We're going to start by talking about Facebook. Do you ever wonder why? It's a pretty common phenomenon that you're sitting there, you're talking to somebody about, oh, I don't know, hot tubs. And then suddenly you start seeing ads for hot tubs wherever you go. And you're like, what is going on here? So you start assuming that Facebook is listening, even though they always say they don't. Mark Zuckerberg has even called it a conspiracy theory. Well, according to a recent USA Today report, they don't have to listen to everything about you. It's all about tracking and not just the other sites that you visit. Thanks to location services on your phone, Facebook not only knows who you are, but also where you're located, where you've been, what you've purchased, because that means more ads and billions of dollars for Facebook. There's more on this, and we've got the details over at komando.com about how Facebook is tracking you and how you can put a stop to it. And you can always look at the Komando community too, and you don't even have to tell Facebook about it because odds are they probably already know. All right, it's time now for our DIY security tip, and cybercrime is big business. Last year, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center received an average of 1,300 complaints every single day, totaling more than $3.5 billion in losses for individuals and businesses. And you got hackers, scammers, and thieves. They're just after you. They're going to use personal tales that you post to con you out of your money. Now, fortunately, taking some basic precautions, knowing what not to do online can save you from trouble down the road. So here are some things that you should never do online. Let's start at the beginning. We're going to talk about posting pictures. It's not just for the likes. Let's say, for example, you get a brand new house. You're super excited about it. You take a picture of the house key and you post it online along with the sign, congratulations. Well, what you don't know is how easy it is to make a duplicate key from a photo. Or how about you're loving that new 4K TV and you follow that up with great pics of you and the family at Disneyland? Well, now everybody knows you're not home. And what about bragging about your kids, or your kids bragging about posting their new driver's license online? Well, they can zoom in and get details about your home address. You've got all kinds of private information that's lurking when you take a photo in your place of work. How many times do you take a photo and you think to yourself, oh, I shouldn't have had my password on a Post-it note right there? And your security questions, they're all posted online. Where were you born? Your hometown? What's your favorite dog's name? You get my drift. So what you want to do is make sure that what you're posting online, you truly, truly think about. Next on the list, use your own Wi-Fi. Don't use your neighbor's Wi-Fi, and don't let your neighbors use your Wi-Fi, because all of a sudden you put yourself at risk because somebody's on your Wi-Fi with a handy-dandy little sniffing program. They can see every single thing that you type in, including your account names and your passwords. So you may think you're being nice. Oh, they don't hardly even use it. Okay, well, it's not just for that. Anything they do on that network, you could be liable as well. Number 3, are you still torrenting? Please, just stop. That's so like 2000. It was the answer for millions of people on the early internet, just to download all these tiny pieces of a larger file while uploading them back for others to download. Basically, it's pirating. I think a $10 movie just isn't worth it. The legal problems also, do you want to violate and steal somebody's copyright? Also, be careful of any fake promotions, contests, and giveaways. I know you see them online. Maybe you get them in your email. It's like, hey, if you just do this, you could win a free trip to Las Vegas or whatever it may be. Nothing's free, and nothing's ever free on the internet. Because if it is free, your private data is the way that you're paying for it. We have links to more information that you need to know and you can't afford to miss over at the official homepage of the Kim Komando Show. That's KOMANDO.com. Once you're there, hit that button that says Kim Show, and under that, you have the show picks.
Standby control. Cue Kim.
A space engineer is building what she calls the anti-smartphone with parts that she actually purchased on eBay, like a rotary dial for $20. What's it all about? I'll explain next on Komando. When you picture a woman in her early 30s on her phone, what comes to mind? Certainly, this person is on social media taking a ton of selfies. She's probably texting all her friends, watching videos, and then swiping left and right on dating apps and maybe getting some work done. I'd like you to meet astronomy engineer Justine Humpt from New York. She couldn't find the type of phone that she wanted, so she spent 3 years making it. Justine wanted an anti-smartphone. Her phone features an old trimline rotary dial that she bought on eBay for $20. She used a 3D printer for the case and the parts. She made the circuit board too. Her phone is 4 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and 1 inch thick, and operates on an AT&T prepaid SIM card. The battery lasts up to 30 hours, but you can't text on it. You can't use any apps or any sites. It has no internet access. Justine says that she doesn't like, in her own words, the hyper-connected thing and the idea of being at someone's beck and call every moment. And, you know, she makes a good point. Smartphones are supposed to empower us, not enslave us. I really appreciate you being here, and stick with me for your trusted digital know-how. Find your local radio station that broadcasts my show, along with more DIY how-tos videos, free news alerts delivered from me to your email address, along with the Komando community, where you can blog and ask your tech questions on our website without anyone tracking you. That's Komando.com, and thanks so much for watching.